today with Joe from Garnish, who is a wonderful local caterer that we work with most weekends, and I thought it would be great just to sit down and have a little conversation. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
So I think we'll get right into it. So basically, I know a lot of people go to a tasting when they want to do sort of try out different catering options. So do you recommend that couples try a tasting before or after they've booked? And generally, what would happen at a tasting that you run?
It depends really, because for us, most of the people that come to a tasting that we do have already booked us. We don't do as many tastings as many other caterers out there, only because, and it's a wonderful problem to have, we are fully booked every single weekend, so trying to find a day, obviously weekdays aren't very good for most people, they want weekends, so we tend to try and do big groups at one time. So most of the time, people have already booked us, but we do have people that haven't. I've had some pencil-ins, which are fine. I don't really mind. So for us, it is important that with a caterer, because I do think at a wedding, food is very important. So it's the one thing that you do remember. So you want to be happy with your caterer. So I always say to people, look, I'm very happy to pencil you in. I'm very confident you're going to like what we have to offer. In terms of what we do with a tasting, we serve too much food. It's very hard for me to do 40, 50 people when you're used to doing 100 and 150 people. So I tend to over-cater because I want everyone to try as much as possible. So we tend to do a lot of canapes. If we're doing a shared banquet, for example, we do a lot of canapes, then we do a lot of shared mains, shared sides, and then we even do some dessert canapes, so that people can get an understanding of what we're all about. They're actually really good because it's an opportunity to meet us as well. So it's myself and we have some wait staff, I've got my kitchen crew. It's just a nice, happy vibe, and everyone can have a chat to each other because we've all got the same thing in common, they're all getting married. So yeah, it all comes down to timing is the large part for us. Yeah. I've got one in September, for example. So for some people, it might not be great timing for them. So most of the time, people for us have already booked us before a tasting.
I think it just gives them a chance, if they're eyeing off a couple of the menu items, to sort of then choose what, or make a decision based on what they're actually trying or tasting. And I think a tasting is a really good opportunity to see what the staff are going to be like, because to me, food is really important, but I also find it goes hand in hand with staff. Now, your staff are very experienced, and everyone that you do choose is always very, very friendly, happy, bubbly, and I think that's a really important part as well, because that's what people remember as much as the food. So I think that's a nice opportunity at a tasting that couples should sort of look out for that as well.
Yes. It has to be, I think the big thing with, whenever you're doing, and you would understand this, whenever you're trying to organise a wedding is the biggest thing that a lot of these bride and grooms have ever organised in their life. Yep. You've got to surround yourself with people that you like.
Yes.
Because you are going to be talking to each other, seeing each other a lot. So you've got to surround yourself with vendors that you really, really like. And I'm a firm believer with wait staff. I'm inviting them. They're paying for them, but I'm inviting them. I have to make sure that those wait staff and the bartenders are friendly, chatty people who can mingle with your guests. I love the fact that when we leave that the guests are saying bye to, bye Lisa, bye. I love that because we are part of it. I don't want grumpy staff. I'd rather have people who can't carry 3 plates and are cheery.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that the best part of the wedding is the pre-dinner drinks time. Mm-hmm. So I feel that people are sort of, it's post-ceremony, they're enjoying a few glasses of bubbly, the sun's setting, everyone's all happy and a bit of a buzz. I've seen that people might choose canapes, grazing antipasto station, and I wanted to ask you if you've got a preference of what you think works best. Should people have a combination? Do you think just one big beautiful grazing table is the best option for that pre-dinner drink time? What would be the best food choices?
Personally, if it was me and I was getting married, I'd go a grazing table. I think the biggest thing is that first bit, the first part is once the ceremony's over, the first thing you want to do is make sure that everyone's got a drink in their hand. So we make sure everyone has that drink, and then the food starts. So I love grazing tables where the guests arrive and they walk into that area because they've obviously got married somewhere else, chances are, and they walk in and that's that amazing moment when they see the grazing table. I love it. I love it when people take photos of it. That makes me happy. You get a lot more food on the grazing table. However, it depends on how long a chunk of time that from the end of the ceremony to when they actually sit down for dinner, that makes a big difference as to how much to have. Like, so we did a wedding on Saturday, they had like nearly 3 hours. So that 3 hour period, they did canapes, we did a few canapes, as well as the grazing table, which worked really well. But if you've got 2 hours, say, which is pretty standard, a grazing table is
sufficient.
sufficient.
Yeah. Okay.
But the number one thing that we get asked all the time is quantity, and people are worried about people being hungry, and I totally understand it. If you're worried about that and you know your guests are big eaters, grazing table I think is important. Canapes can work. We don't. If you've got 100 people, we don't make 100 of each canape, because all it takes is one person having 2 and someone misses out. So we do at least 2 of every canape to cover ourselves. And usually in our case, like we know arancini is very popular for us, so I've got 100 guests, I'll do like 200, and if I've got more risotto, I'll make 230. So just to cover ourselves, because we know. Yeah. So I think that if it's about quantity though, and you're worrying about it, then I would go grazing table. That's what I put all the food on that grazing table that I love to eat.
Yes, I've seen and tried your grazing tables, and they're amazing. Yeah. Some of the cheeses, and I guess that moves on to my next point. I know you do a lot of locally sourced ingredients.
Yeah.
On those, and you are definitely known for your grazing stations, tables, they look amazing. So is there anything on there that you love to put that is locally sourced at the moment?
My number one thing at the moment, I love the Kangaroo Valley olives. I always bring an extra container of that just for the staff, because we can down a few of those. For me, it's a really weird thing. I would never care in the world if there was no chocolate. I know everyone's gasping, but I wouldn't care. Would I eat chocolate? Absolutely. But if there was no chocolate in the world, I wouldn't be too stressed. If there was no cheese in the world, I'd be in trouble. So, because I love my cheese. So I love my cheese, my olives. We do like a locally sourced air-dried chorizo. We do, I try, every supply that I have is all local, deliberately. Because I feel that most of my clients are Sydney-siders, and I feel like if we're not going to give them what the best the South Coast has to offer them, they could be anywhere. And I think we've got some amazing produce. So I try and use as much as I physically can, as much local produce, and all my suppliers are locals.
Love that. And I would have to say that is probably what sets your stations apart, is that people that sometimes try and DIY, which is totally fine if they don't have a budget or they've got family members that want to help out. But getting, dips and cheese and things from Coles is just not the same, and it's not at that same level, especially to set off the scene of the wedding from the get-go, that pre-dinner drink time. I think it's really important to have really nice stuff. The other thing I have seen you guys do is at the end of it, and there's always leftover stuff, which doesn't always happen with every caterer, is you box everything up neatly and you put it in their fridge or at the property's fridge. And so I've seen couples be able to bring that out for their brunch the next day, or lunch or something with their family and friends, and I love that you provide that service. So I think that's a really nice thing to point out as well.
We bring disposable containers to every wedding deliberately. So I bring a sleeve of it, just so we know if there's any leftovers, that they do have it, and I kind of think it's a nice thing to do. So yeah, that's standard for us.
And so I wanted to have a little chat about the types of food service. So sort of gone to the whole alternate drop, sit down, and there's lots of different options out there, and I think people get a bit confused as to what the right choice is for them. So now to run through a couple, you've got banquet, buffet and sit down cocktail style. Do you have a preference of what you think is a really good option, or any pros or cons you wanted to point out for each?
Personally for me, my favourite wedding to do catering wise is canapé, without fail. But unfortunately, and we've all been to one of those weddings where people have walked away hungry, and I totally understand why people are balking a little bit at why not to do a canapé wedding. There were people leaving hungry. I firmly believe if you get the right caterer, a canapé wedding is an amazing experience. And to do my favourite thing is grazing table with canapés. Love it. And it can go on, and the beauty of a canapé wedding is that if you don't like something, for example, if something's got salmon in it and you don't eat salmon, well, who cares? Because the next thing will come through that won't have salmon on it. So
more choices.
You've got more choices. Yeah. So you're going to give people a lot of food, a lot of canapés, a lot of choice. Shared banquet is probably, though, the most popular thing that we do. And shared banquet, when I got married 15 years ago, there was no such thing. It was all alternate drop. Yes. So shared banquet is where groups of food go down the middle of a table and everyone helps themselves from their seats. So we say 2 mains and 3 sides. The big thing with a shared banquet is, between that and an alternate drop, alternate drop, we probably only do maybe 1 in 25 of our weddings is alternate drop now. It's because I think you get a lot more value for money than in a shared banquet than alternate drop. Shared banquet is cheaper than from us per head. It's cheaper than an alternate drop. And the reason alternate drop is more expensive is largely the staff. Because you're paying for a lot of plates to go out for entree and a lot of plates to go out for a main. While with shared banquet, we've got big platters that are serving 8 people. So it's a lot cheaper. And for me, I would prefer to spend my money on food. You get more food on a shared banquet too than you get for an alternate drop. So I would rather put my money towards food than staff any day. And if I was a couple, I would far prefer to be spending my money on food.
Yeah.
So that's why we tend to suggest shared banquet. And the beauty of that is, if you say have, I don't know, fish and lamb, and you don't like fish, well, that's fine. Don't serve yourself any fish. So it's perfect. Well, with alternate drop, it's that constant negotiating, because you can see that. You can every time, you can see it's chicken and beef, and then you can see them counting down to see, and they go, oh, I'm getting chicken. Then you can see them negotiating, trying to find someone that'll take theirs. So it ends up being very. I'm a shared banquet fan. I'd love it. I wish that they had a shared banquet when I got married, because that's what I would have had. And as I said, you're getting a lot more food, and it's cheaper per head.
And people, I think, love that idea of the family feasting, sharing, passing around, everyone sort of getting to know one another. So I think I would have to agree, a lot of the ones we've got coming up are all that banquet service.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a stylist, it's very easy to set for that as well. We know that we sort of leave a nice greenery runner or something down the middle of the table, keep that relatively free, and maybe decorate on the ends. So it's really easy to decorate a table for that side of things as well. So just in terms of hire equipment, so a lot of the weddings that we both work at are obviously at barns, sheds, marquees, private properties, sort of unique venues that are a bit BYO, DIY. So if someone books you and they're having that at an off-site sort of property, what sort of things do they need to consider hiring in?
We don't supply plates, glassware or cutlery. So that's the things that they've got to look at. We supply, if it's shared banquet, say, we supply the platters and the serving utensils for those platters, whether they be tongs or salad servers, we supply that. We supply the salt and pepper shakers and, well, not even shakers, like little dishes, and butter dishes and bread baskets and that sort of stuff. What I tend to say, that's the one thing I think that couples get stressed over as to what to hire. What I tend to say to them is, speak to a hire company, they'll give you a big list of and they probably give you everything on that list, and then send it to me and I'll have a look at it for you. If we've got it, like for example bar trays, I'll say don't hire them, we bring them with us. So I'll go through it. Sometimes the biggest issue I think that we've been caught a few times on is glassware. So you have to remember, if you're having a sit down dinner, and you've got 100 people, there is 100 wine glasses and 100 water tumblers going on that table already. So then you have to start thinking, okay, I've got to hire 100 of those each, and then I've now got to think of the bar. But people forget they've got glassware on that table. Yep. So that's the biggest problem. I think they've got to look at that. And then, because we are very happy to keep washing, but can only wash so quickly. And so when we're going, there's panic because there's not enough champagne glasses on the bar and all that sort of stuff. That's when it becomes a bit tricky. So glassware can be a bit of a problematic, but on the other hand, if they send me that hire list, I'm very happy to go through it, because obviously it's for the benefit of everybody.
Yes, so you're not caught out on the day without entree plates or whatever it might be. So I think that's a really good rule of thumb. Contact a really great hire company. Wherever you are, there's lots of different ones that you can ask them to give you a suggested amount, and then I'm sure you guys provide them with a list of what you need anyway, and then there's the fallback is that cross-check as well with your planner or your caterer, so you won't miss out on things. The biggest issue would always be kitchen. Like, some kitchens don't have an oven in it. Like, ovens are usually something that we have to worry about. We get the couples to get the ovens for us. Most hire companies have one delivery charge no matter how much you've hired. So it's better to go with one delivery company and get everything from the one person. So we tend to say, look, we need a back bar oven, it's called. But we tend to go, I don't like putting my hand in people's pockets if it's not necessary. If we don't need it, or we can bring it, we'll bring it with us. So I always just say that to anyone, if they've ever got an issue with something that they want me to bring or whatever, if it's in an email, I check every single email before I go to that wedding. So everything's in writing, so I go, okay, right, I'm bringing a water dispenser, or I'm bringing, I
something else. So at least we know. So
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. And so I guess moving on to the end of the evening, so late night suppers are often quite popular because we work at venues that can go a bit later than your typical reception venue. So sometimes property end time might finish at 11:30 or 12, and you find that if it's been an early ceremony, by the time it gets to sort of 9:30, 10, people a little bit hungry. So do you guys do anything or can offer anything at the end of the night just so people got another hit when they start to get the munchies?
Yeah, look, we absolutely do. Like we've done whole ham and bread rolls and stuff. I personally, I know a lot of caterers do it, I personally find that they never get eaten, which is a wonderful compliment to us because I know then that we have fed them well. So I tend to say, let's just feed them really well at dinner time rather than the ham rolls.
Yes.
And so I do it, and I'm very happy to do it, but once again, I don't want to put my hand in someone's pocket if it's not necessary. And I find that the ham goes out and hardly anyone, you might get 2 people that eat it, and then you kind of go, that was really a bit of it. And then you've got it costs money because now we've got staff waiting to bring it in. And so we happy to do it. And when it comes down to it, we're happy to do anything someone asks us to do because it's all about their day. But I personally think for us, you don't necessarily need it.
Okay. And when you do your quoting, so do you include staff or does that get added on? Because that could be another thing that people see a per head, whatever it might be, $65 a head for whatever sort of food choice, and then do we add staff on the end? I know you guys do bar staff as well, which is really great. So does that then get added on, a bar or wait staff? How does that work?
For me, I make a 1 per head price that includes all food, all kitchen staff, all bartenders, all waitresses. Because for me, I think of it more of I was on the other side of it and I'm asking for a quote. To me, what does plus staff mean? Like, I don't know what that means. And so for me, I would just be able to, I would rather know, okay, for this per head cost, I'm getting 2 bartenders for 8 hours and I'm getting 5 wait staff for 7 hours and I'm getting all the kitchen crew. I don't want to be worrying about, so what do you mean by plus staff? And then you find that very cheap quote that sounded cheap isn't that cheap when you add all the extra staffing on it. While for us, it's a same per head price. If I decide, like I always give people what they say that I'm going to give them. However, for example, if I decide that I want to add, I've said that I'm going to give you 4 waitresses and I decide I want to have a 5th waitress, I don't go back and say, by the way, I want you to pay for my 5th waitress. I just do it.
Yeah.
It could be something so simple as logistics. We find that we are going, like it's raining, and so therefore the service might be a bit longer. So I'm thinking, no, I want to have an extra waitress because I want to get the food out faster. That's on me. So at least for me, because I know everyone's all about budgets and trying to understand how much the whole wedding's costing. I want them to know this is how much the caterers are going to cost, and this is the price. It doesn't change.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I think that's a pretty valid point. And I have to say, when we do work with you, you overstaff really well, which just means that there's things like an extra staff member to be able to float around and pick up beer bottles, pick up napkins and dirty plates and just tend to rubbish and things like that. And I think that adds to the whole look and vibe of a wedding. When we're off-site, we're not at a function venue where there's just unlimited amount of stock staff, and so I think people often forget the little behind the scenes bits and pieces that have to be done. So I think having an extra person is really valuable. Just on that point of sort of moving on to the end of the evening. So again, often what happens is people forget about the pack down and clean up. So they're left with a massive mess the next day. So you guys always tend to leave it pretty immaculate when you do leave. But I just wanted to paint a picture, I suppose, for couples looking at having a wedding in a barn or a shed. What can they expect? What sort of condition can they expect a caterer to leave the kitchen in? And what are they expected to see when they wake up the next day to be able to pack down? Yeah.
Anything food related, so the whole kitchen we clean down. So anything food related, all the plates, the cutlery, the glassware has been washed. It depends on the venue though. So we'll mop the floors and we'll do all that. The biggest issue we have is usually you might have some glassware, and the only reason that is if you're at a venue where 20 people can stay there or whatever, I am not going to cause a mutiny by trying to rip a glass of wine out of someone's hand that could be, could stay there for longer. So there might be some glassware, but we wash up everything we physically can wash. So we wash a huge chunk of glassware, but that would be the only thing that I say to couples, that there might be some glassware. Other than that, everything else is cleaned up. We try and put all the recycling in the right spot. We go for a hunt. It's, sometimes when it's really, really dark, it's very, very hard to find things. But we do as much as we physically can. That kitchen is clean, there's no doubt. Because we also factor in that people might want to brunch the next day and they want to use that kitchen as well. So we clean everything down. But it's just within reason. It depends. Sometimes we'll we won't mop the floor, really mop the floor, because I'm panicking that if someone does walk in and falls head over heels. So we have to be a bit careful about that too. So it just depends on the venue. But everything food related, everything that you've hired goes back in the boxes that they were originally in.
That's great, because I think that might actually surprise people to know that they're not going to expect 130 dirty plates, entree plates, cutlery, glassware the next day to clean. It's just going to be the little scraps of the leftover bits and pieces. But mostly I think that's a huge benefit that you go that extra mile to do that, because and people don't quite understand what condition things are going to be left in at the end of the evening, so that's really great.
They get fined if the plates go back dirty. So it's important. We actually use detergent and tea towels, and we do all the whole thing. We don't just hose it down. We actually clean it, because also too, once again, if they want to use it the next day for a brunch, I want them to be able to use those plates.
Yeah.
So everything's washed. Yeah.
Attention to detail, Jo.
We tried.
You guys.
We tried.
So, what is Garnish's signature dish that leaves your clients raving?
Signature dish. Well, I think personally our slow cooked lamb is probably one of my favourites, and is the most. If you're talking about what guests tell us all the time, oh my goodness, it's that. In saying that, we are not. I always say to myself, we are not cookie cutter caterers. I am very happy if someone wants me to make something. I think I've only ever said no once, and that was they wanted us to do pasta for 150 people once. I just can't cook pasta. It's going to be any decency, because it'll be a gluggy mess by the time we want to serve it. So I always say yes. But so the lamb is definitely very popular. We do we do two types, which are just as good. We do a Middle Eastern spice lamb. It's got about 15 different spices in it, with watercress and pomegranate and hummus sauce and caramelised balsamic. It's delicious. Then we do another one, which is pears. It's slow roasted lamb with pears and cumin, and pear is delicious with lamb. It's one of those things that just works. Yeah. So, and then we do a roasted pumpkin with a spiced tomato, lime yogurt. That's one of our most popular side dishes. But we've just done our winter. We're doing a menu's about to go on our website any minute, a new one, because we do what we do because we love to cook. So my chefs and I get together all the time. So we're doing. What's going on? Twice cooked kipla potatoes with preserved lemon. Honestly good. I just made the other day, which I had to put on the menu right away because I loved it. It was a cinnamon pavlova with a mascarpone cream, spiced apples, and salted butterscotch pavlova. It was off the charts. It's going on the menu. It's so good. So we tend to do, there's things that we find that we'll constantly put on the menu, but there's also things that clients go, look, this has got a sentimental value. Is there any chance you could do this? Like we did a tuna ceviche once, which we loved it so much we put it on our menu, and it was because that's what they had when they were in Fiji or something when he proposed to her, and so we did it for the wedding. And I have no problem doing it. It makes our life interesting. So we tend to do a lot of different things every now and then. If it's more logistics, if it's because of quantity. So if we can logistically do it, I'm always going to say yes, let's do it. Because I love it. It makes life interesting when trying something different.
I've tried I think my favourite thing from you guys is it's like a trout or a fish or something, and that is so good. We do it's a maple and soy ocean trout. Yes,
it's amazing. And it's really good. Cold,
hot. I think it was cold when I had it, like probably 2 hours after I finished pack up of a wedding or something. I took some home and it was so good.
And we do the whole side. Because I think there should be a level of grandeur. I like when platters go down on the table, I want people to ooh and ah a bit. Wow. Yep. So when the platter goes down, I want a whole side. Don't give me a piddly little piece of fish. I want a whole side. And I also want to know with a shared banquet that if people understand is that there's a small amount of lamb. Everyone's polite at weddings. It's very nice of them, but if they were my friends, we would just fight for the last piece. So there's a little piece of lamb on the platter. My staff know to say, so if someone would like to take that last piece, we'll go get some more from the kitchen. Because every group of 8 at the shared banquet is very different. Yes. So how much they can how much they can eat. So we always have backup to cover ourselves. We assume people are going to eat a lot, and we're usually spot on because they do.
Yeah.
Eat at a wedding. It's a celebration. They should be eating a lot and drinking a lot.
Yes.
Quite frankly.
I agree. So I wanted to also ask you if there's any food trends or things that you see. So even a couple of seasons ago, there wasn't even a thing that was really shared banquet. Like it wasn't quite a thing that was in. Is there anything that you see coming up, that whether it's like types of food or different trends in the food world?
For us, I mean, the grazing table is obviously, has come into its own, and look, chances are it might, fade out. Dessert tables are starting to have a bit of a look-see as well, but dessert's usually for us one of the most wasted courses. People, if they want a bit of sugar, we're very happy free of charge to cut the wedding cake and serve it canapé style. People, if they have got a sweet tooth, want a little bit of something, but usually by that point they're on the dance floor. So people want it. Dancing is important. So I think the trend that we are finding is that Middle Eastern cuisine is becoming a bit more, trendy. It's delicious food, and so we've been finding a lot of different type of Middle Eastern cuisines finding its way. Like we've done Middle Eastern grazing tables,
okay,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
So that's becoming a really, really.
Is that like falafel and hummus and things like that? Yum.
That's the other thing. Falafel on our canapé menu's just gone.
Okay.
We're making falafel with a minted tahini yogurt, which is delicious. So yeah, that's becoming falafels. Big things of falafel and lots of figs and pomegranates and all that sort of stuff is really, really awesome. So Middle Eastern food for us is becoming a bit trendy. And we've done a few weddings where it's been a few years ago it was very much about Italian food, and now it's very much, can we do a Middle Eastern themed? I'll tell you who it is. It's that Ottolenghi, that chef Ottolenghi. People love him, so I think that's where it's sort of leaning towards for us. And we have found we're putting a lot of we've just tabbouleh's now gone onto our menu. We do a baby spinach, a date salad, which is one of my favourite salads I've ever eaten. So that's sort of becoming trendy. But at the moment, the shared banquet is the number one thing. And it's usually the biggest problem they have, couples, is trying to convince mum and dad that it makes sense, because mum and dad wouldn't have.
It's not a traditional sort of thing in their mind, I suppose.
Exactly. So that's probably where it's going. But yeah, Middle Eastern for us is big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. We'll look forward to that, because I love that sort of food.
So do I.
Now, a quick fun fact about you. What is your favourite at-home meal to share or cook for your family, just on a Tuesday night with the kids?
We should have this very funny story. So I've got a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I overheard the other day someone said to my daughter, it must be amazing having you must get beautiful food because your mum owns a catering business. And I remember she goes, you'd think so, wouldn't you? And I went, yeah, nice, pretty much, isn't that nice? Because I've had situations where I have in my cool room enough food to feed 300 people, but I'm going, what am I making dinner tonight for my family of 4?
Leftovers.
So it's a bit stressful.
Pizza.
Exactly right. Like Abby and Will, my kids, have heard about arancini because Mum makes hundreds of them, but they've never actually had one.
Make it home.
So yeah, great parenting by me. But look, my kids' favourite meal that we have a lot as a family, and it's my go-to. I can't do takeaway. I've been cooking all day. Is and it sounds weird, but it's artichokes and bacon and parmesan, parsley, rigatoni. It's off the chart, delicious, simple as, takes 10 minutes, love it to death, and it's my kids' favourite thing. It's got chili flakes through it and artichokes. They love it.
That's what we pizza or lasagna. That's not really a kid-related food.
I know, it's very
Must be good.
My kids love food. I'm a firm believer that I want my kids to, try everything. So yeah, we tend to. They've had a lot of cheese in their life. My son would say his favourite cheese is actually based in the Hunter Valley. It's a Hunter Bell is the brand, and it's called beer cheese. I think he just likes the name. It's got beer in the title. But beer cheese, he'll tell you all about beer cheese. It's it's his favourite cheese.
You mean bigger stringer?
No, doesn't go any of that. No, they love a good cheese table, my kids, because we do. I'm working Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday we have usually a job on. So Sunday night for me is my family time, and surprisingly, that's my only time of social life as well. So I have friends over on Sunday night, and everyone goes, "You're crazy because you're cooking. You've been cooking all weekend." But it's nice to cook for family, and you've got a glass of wine in your hand as you're doing. It's a bit different. You can't do that when you're at work.
It's not 130 people.
No.
6 close friends and a bit more laid back.
Yeah. So the kids are used to lots of different types of foods, but we tend to do the basics, but zhuzh it up a bit. So the rigatoni artichoke pasta is probably the number one for mine.
Okay. All right. We'll have to come over for the Sunday
You're
catch
welcome.
up.
I love a Sunday catch up. I'm like, you'll see me with a glass of wine in my hand. I'm just wanting you now.
That's all it is. You deserve a break after all the crazy wedding stuff. So I think that's it for today. We've covered everything I can think of relating to sort of catering things. So thank you so much for coming in for a chat today.
Very welcome.
Now, if people want to get in touch with Garnish, what is the easiest or best way? How can they reach you?
We have a website. So go through the garnishcatering.com.au website. It's better to email me. Very happy to have a chat to people later, but it's best to get a quote in writing. So I'll tend to, I'm pretty good. I try and get within 48 hours. I like to try and get all my emails. But we get a lot of emails. Wonderful problem, not complaining. A wonderful problem to have. I get lots of emails. So I try and keep on top of it. But email me through my website, and I'm very happy to ask and answer any questions. And look, I'm in the wedding biz. Everyone says, "Oh, you just do lots of weddings." It's largely because I think I'm secretly getting married every single time. Don't tell my husband. But I love weddings, and I love big groups of weddings. I just love it. So if I can help in any way, we end up, because we're there, like you and I are very similar in the sense we are there for probably the big, out of all the vendors, and maybe the photographer, of course, we're there for a big chunk of time. So we end up, I see good suppliers, I see bad suppliers as well. So it's good, I'm very happy to, give my 2 cents of what I've seen and what I've, what's worked and what hasn't worked and all this sort of stuff. So very happy. It doesn't have to be catering related for me. So I just want them to be happy. Yeah. Because I love weddings. They're fun. They should be fun and they should be happy. So, and we feel it very important with the food. You ask any person who after a wedding, how was it? The first thing they talk about is the food. So we know we have a very important part to play to make sure that is a great day for everybody. So we take it very, very seriously. But we are secretly thinking we're all getting married, all of us.
It's good. Love that.
Passion.
Love it. It's good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again so much for coming in. And I just wanted to mention to everyone listening as well that we've got our blog out, which is cocktail versus sit-down weddings, and a little bit of a fact sheet information about that. So that's on the website, which is weddingandeventcreators.com.au/blog. And again, thanks for today, and thank you so much for listening in, and we'll catch you at the next podcast.
I didn't comment on my outfit. Doesn't matter.
You're right. Matt will just do
Is that okay?
arrows around it.
Is that okay?
That was
okay.
long. That was good.
Was that long, was it?
Yeah.